Venture capitalists and other investors poured $9.5 billion into PropTech all through November of 2021, according to data firm CB Insights. Now, that is the most ever raised in any year, topping the $9 billion investment in the sector for all of 2019. In India as well, 2021 will be remembered as the year India got its first PropTech unicorn with $1 billion plus valuation in NoBroker.com. Today on the show, we map out the big PropTech trends of 2021 to find out what lies ahead for this hotting up sector. Joining me, Nirupa Shankar, Director of Brigade REAP. We also have with us Priya Mohan, Partner at Venture Highway, and Abhishek Kiran Gupta, CEO and co-founder of CRE Matrix. Thank you so much, all of you, for joining me. I think my first question is going to be to Nirupa. She's been a developer and, of course, also incubated Brigade REAP, which was India's first PropTech accelerator fund. You know, the last time, Nirupa, we sensed some excitement and PropTech made big headlines was when Housing.com got funded by SoftBank, and that was 2014. And it's now again that I can sense a lot of excitement in the air again. Is that so? Do you believe that something's changed in 2021?
Thanks, Manisha. Thanks for having us. Yes, I do agree. There's a lot of excitement in PropTech now. In fact, the euphoria that we saw with Housing.com way back in 2014 is kind of what spurred us to start Brigade REAP, which actually officially began in October 2016. And quite frankly, in 2016, when we began, even terms like PropTech had not yet been coined, when people were wondering what we were doing, setting up an accelerator for real estate, because that wasn't really seen at all, at least in the Asian subcontinent. Now, I would say with a lot of the larger macro trends we have seen, whether it's demonetization or RERA, and now, of course, the global pandemic, it has kind of spurred on and catalyzed the focus on technology, because people have understood that they need to adopt technology into their operations if they are to sort of survive these work from home scenarios, these remote selling kind of scenarios. And I would say that, in the last 5 years, Brigade REAP has accelerated about 50 startups, and almost 13 of them were either acquired or raised funds just in the COVID year of FY21. So between the period of Feb 2020 to Feb 2021, we saw a significant number of startups raise funds focused on real estate PropTech. And that kind of signifies the kind of action that we are seeing. And of course, like you rightly mentioned, with NoBroker becoming the first PropTech unicorn, we are expecting a couple of more unicorns in the PropTech sector this year, or rather in the next few months. So there is definitely a lot of traction in the space.
I'm so glad to hear that. And first of all, even that number that you said, just Brigade REAP alone has mentored 50, and some of them 13 plus have got acquired in the last 2 years. Priya, I was looking at the numbers, and the last numbers floating around in the public domain are that there are 969 real estate tech startups. I wasn't even aware that that's how large the landscape is. So there is a whole lot which is happening. Run me through, where do you see the excitement as a venture capital fund?
Firstly, thank you for having me. I think Nirupa covered this very articulately. I'm just going to kind of share with you a VC's framework when we look at industries, and that's important to understand. In my perspective, I think the timing is probably very opportune now, and there are 3 factors to it. And the 3 factors include, and take the comparison of what happened with UPI doing for payments, Aadhaar doing for multiple startups building on top of it, right? In the same way, in real estate, 3 factors: regulation and governance is constantly improving. Nirupa talked about RERA, the way they are figuring out quick resolutions, giving more, power in the hands of consumers. The second part is infrastructure, and infrastructure includes digitization. To take one example, I'm seeing a lot of companies which are digitizing land records. And, I think it is a very important base to build a lot of stacks on top. And the third part is capital and talent. We've funded a few companies this year. Unfortunately, I can't name them because all founders have chosen to be in stealth. But the quality of talent that is coming in to solve problems in real estate now than ever before is fantastic. I think these, to me, are the founding basis for an industry to, begin that cusp of super growth.
Before I go to Abhishek, it's critical to just, tell our audience what is the framework of India's PropTech industry. So you could have marketplaces which allow you to do online property search and transactions. And you have Magic Bricks, No Broker, 99 Acres, Square Yards. They're like most of the big ones that you hear about are in that space. Then you also have virtual reality and augmented reality, which allows you to actually view your home or the property that you're buying sitting anywhere. So I think that's taken off in a big way in real estate during COVID. You also have big data analytics company, and Abhishek is part of that. We will bring you some of the insights on that. Building and construction efficiencies, any business which drives that is also something which is called PropTech. You have home automation and smart buildings, smart homes, again PropTech. IoT-based water and waste solutions, those again, as sustainability catches everyone's attention, whether it's venture capitalists or even developers, that's going to be a big play. And of course, home interiors. I'm sure I'm missing out a lot, and my experts will pitch in with their views. But Abhishek, it's not been easy for a company like yours to raise funds, is what I sense. But do you think now is going to be that cusp where you will get the valuations you've always wanted?
Okay. So we are a data company, right? And we've been hearing from all over the world, political leaders or the big gurus saying data is the new oil. But somehow, since we are a B2B SaaS company, people in India did not value it as much as United States B2B SaaS is valued. Having said that, I think it's going to change big time, because whether within PropTech, all the different names that you mentioned, right? Whether you do a marriage between PropTech and FinTech, or you do augmented reality, or you do get PropTech into construction, all of those we feel data will be in the core of all action, right? Whether you do transactions, whether you do mortgages, whether you do valuations, you will need data. I think we are in a very, very sweet spot. I think where we missed out in the last 3 years is we kept focusing on capturing data where it was easy to acquire, which is in the commercial real estate space, which is a very small 10%, 15% of the market. I think the real pain is going to be to collect data for residential, because that's not a 1:10 multiplier or a scale. It's 1:100 or probably more than that. I think that's where CRE Matrix has moved on. And that's going to be a big game changer over the next 2 years.
Are you catching the attention of investors is my question. I mean, is there more excitement for the nature of business that you're doing than there was previously, pre-COVID?
110%.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll hope to hear some good news on that front. Nirupa, I'm going to come back to one very interesting interview that I read by No Broker when they got their valuation. And they said, the very nature of PropTech business is that you can't really clock a 10x growth in a year with massive cashbacks the way you would do in other B2C businesses. And that's probably kept investors cautious of the valuations. Do you think that's going to change now that the excitement is returning? I mean, what's your outlook on 2022?
See, there are multiple aspects to it, like part of what Abhishek was saying, right? When you look at funding, obviously B2C companies have typically been the more sexier ones and have seen more appeal from investors. And part of that is because it's maybe the growth rate that they're able to show month on month is far superior to what a B2B company would be able to show. The kind of eyeballs that they're getting is far higher than what a B2B company might get. But that said, the B2B businesses are the more sustainable businesses. They are the ones that are currently profitable with unit economic positive. But, it seems like the investors, or typically like companies, they're not really valuing the fact whether you're unit economic positive or not. They're more sort of concerned on what is your growth rate, how many people can you sort of target, and things like that. So the factors are very different. In terms of my view for 2022 rather, I do think that we will see a couple of more unicorns in the real estate PropTech space. Again, they will be, I feel, in the B2C side of things more rather than the B2B. But that is not to say B2B businesses are not seeing interested investors. There are, of course, a group of investors who do want more sustainable businesses as well.
Where would you put your money? Let me ask, I mean, where would Brigade Reap money go? Would it be in all these pockets that we spoke about, or there are certain segments which you believe have more potential?
See, personally, I like startups in the sustainable space that can be, and companies that are very synergistic with what we do. For instance, there's water management company that you mentioned. We got where we put some money in. We had put money in QuickSpec, which was a construction management software. See, those, from our perspective as a developer, right, I look at technology in only three ways, right? Can it help me make more revenue? Can it help me cut costs? And can it help me optimize my operations? So if it's able to do one of the above, then there's a lot of synergy to my business. So personally, I like businesses that help those three factors. And of course, a lot of large organizations do have ESG goals. That is the requirement and desire of a lot of our investors. So when that is the case, and obviously you want to develop in a responsible manner, we can't just keep taking from Mother Earth and not giving anything back. So we, as a company, responsible development is very important to us. So we also invest a lot in sustainable startups that have some sustainable solution for the real estate space, whether it's water management, clean air as a service, sewage treatment plants that don't require any chemicals or electricity, various things like that.
Well, so interesting to hear that sustainability aspect. In fact, we've been doing a series and we covered WeGot in that. Very interesting. Priya, what's your money going to do? Where will it find its way when it comes to PropTech? And do you think we're going to have a few more unicorns in 2022?
Actually, I'd like to frame this differently. I think to me, becoming a unicorn is very incidental, Manisha. I think that is...
It grabs all the headlines for sure.
It does, because, I just read an interesting quote, right? Like, to make a good narrative, you focus on the exceptions. I'm not saying becoming a unicorn is an exception. I'm sure the founder in this panel will appreciate. I think the focus should be on great founders and great businesses. I think becoming a unicorn is incidental. Having made that point, let me, kind of step back and give you a perspective on where I see this going. I think we have, started with the phase of exchanges, like you rightly pointed out when you gave the framework of what are the different aspects of PropTech. And I think Nirupa made a point about B2B versus B2C. I think India, the stage that we are in, we're a very distribution first market. In evolution of any kind of categories, we see that exchanges and platforms play a huge role in educating and amassing and massification of users. And I think we've gone through that phase with PropTech, with all the exchanges coming up. Now, with the data in place, with analytics in place, and with more and more, physical paper-based records becoming more digitized for founders and stacks to build intelligence on top, I see opportunities for very nuanced solutions that will add across the value chain. And let me give you an example, right? Okay. So take Open Door in the US. I think the timing is great for an Open Door type, solution in India. Right, there are two companies that are funded in Latin America, which is called, Flat, I think in Mexico, and Habi in Colombia. So essentially what they are doing is improving the services of buying and selling, secondary buying and selling for homeowners, which we all agree here is very broken, right? And productizing it and standardizing the experience. Okay. Second aspect is like, think about, what Digit did with insurance. Using field agents, to build massive insurance coverage. Similarly, today, our feet on the street guys are the brokers. There's a certain amount of trust. There's a certain amount of hustle and knowledge on hyper-local, real estate knowledge. Imagine building a Shopify equivalent for real estate brokers to improve their, services to the clients and building a platform. I'm just giving you some examples. Right. What I see with more founders pitching in is more nuanced solutions that are coming up in the real estate space.
More nuanced solutions and basically just making, attending to the entire value chain. So you're saying, I would love to see an Open Door sort of a model in India for sure. Quick question to Abhishek. We'll have to wrap out after that. Abhishek, when do we get the good news of your next round of funding? Is it going to be before 2022 arrives or right after?
No. So 100% in the beginning of 2022 is what we foresee. But I have a small little story to share. Yes, go ahead. From my past experience. So when I was heading research at JLL, we were tasked to create an analytics platform for JLL, right? There was hardly any data available, let alone analytics. Because the other panelists spoke about data analytics being important as we progress towards being a larger PropTech. 15 years back, there was no data.
Right.
And at that time, I couldn't imagine that, I'll be founding CRE Matrix, where data is available to all developers and brokers and investors and occupiers, you name it, all stakeholders can use it. Accurate, authentic, real-time data. Now, in 15 years, this could happen. Believe me, what we couldn't imagine 15 years back, probably India will do in the next 5 or 10 years. So it's not only about 22, but the next decade is going to be absolutely brilliant. Whether it's blockchain, that could happen to India very soon. It's still new to the world, but India could be a great adopter. We are young, we are ready to adopt, we're ready to adapt, we're ready to disrupt. And I think PropTech will definitely be in the center of all this action. I know FinTech has taken the action away from everybody in the last decade. PropTech will do something this decade for sure.
Well, let's hope it's the decade of PropTech. I'm going to wrap out on that note. Thank you very much, Nirupa, Priya and Abhishek for joining me. Of course, let's see whether we bring you some breaking news in 2022 when it comes to PropTech. On the other side, we take a look at how many homes were completed and delivered with the funds allotted by the Finance Ministry for stuck housing projects, and how many more can home buyers look forward to in 2022.